So what we're going to do is start with the 5, 2, 6. So you have a 5 in the front, a 2, and then a 6. So the 5 is the cap the first time. So if the margin plus the index equals a huge number and you started low, it can go up from the start point to 5, because that first 5 in front is a cap for the payment. The second one, from then on, after the first year, the second year, the third year, and on and on and on, can only go a maximum of 2%. So it goes 5/2/6. The 5 is the first time the payment changes, can go a maximum of 5% up, probably not 5% down, because you're probably going to start somewhere around 1.5% on this adjustable loan. So let's say that the start rate, so write down start rate. I need to do this on a whiteboard somewhere. Start rate is 1.5. The margin, let's call it a 2.5. And a year goes by, and after a year goes by, your index, so the index changes all the time. It goes up and down every single day, all the time, sometimes more than one time in a day. You can find the indexes on your rate sheets, and you can find the indexes on the Wall Street Journal. So the index goes up and down all the time. A year goes by, your client was at 1.5% for a whole year. And now the most it can change, the payment cap is 5%. And your index, let's call it, let's make it so we use it. Let's call the index at 3.5. So the index is at 3.5. You take the margin plus the index. Your margin's 2.5. 3.5 plus 2.5 is 6. Correct me if I'm wrong. So margin plus index is 6%. You started at 1.5. So 1.5 with a payment cap of 5 could go all the way up to 6.5, but you're not going to go to 6.5 because the margin plus the index is 6. I will take a picture of what I'm writing down if anybody wants to see what I'm writing. Kind of sloppy, but you can see it. Okay, so margin plus index is 6. You could go all the way to 6.5. So you're going to be stopped at 6 because it's margin plus index or the cap, whichever is better for the client. Okay, so now you're at 6 for a whole year. Ouch. And that's how payment shock happens. And that's the whole thing. The government didn't want you to have payment shock, especially if you're in the home that you live in with a roof over your head. So now you're at 6% for a whole year. Let's say that the index goes down to 1.5. Index is at 1.5. Your margin stays the same. It never changes. So your margin's 2.5. 1.5 plus 2.5 is 4. You can change a maximum of margin plus index. You can change a maximum on your cap of 2. So your payment cap, if margin plus index is 4 and you're at 6, you would go down to 4. So you would not have to refinance. You just drop down to 4 for the next year. Are you guys with me? Worst case scenario, we started at 1.5. Your life cap is from the start rate up to 6. So 1.5 plus 6 is 7.5. This loan will never go higher than 7.5% because you started at 1.5. So even though that payment, I always say that this loan is really bad because the first change can go, up 5%. However, look at the life cap. It's not that bad. I know you guys think it's bad because it's like 2.5, but not so bad. Wait, did I mess up?
That's a question.
Oh, go ahead. Because you guys can ask questions. And so I have a student in here because somebody actually came over here today. Question.
Do the underwriters qualify at the max rate fully amortized?
Okay, so the question is did the underwriters do it at the maximum cap rate? No, and that's why originally what happened was underwriters actually approved them at the start rate. So they were qualified at the 1.5, and that's why so many people crashed because they couldn't make their payment. They should have, and today in our market, we have to do at worst case scenario. So you have to max it all the way out. So any kind of thing that you do in the future, it's worst case scenario. So the highest it can go is 7.5. This is not a negative loan, so you don't have to max it out. What you do have to know about neg ams, it's not in your book, but I know you have to know this, is with a negative adjustable rate mortgage, if the person pays the lowest payment on a negative adjustable, every time they do that, their principal goes up, okay? Now, usually the principal is capped at 110%. And so what you have to do is you have to cap it at 110% on the principal, worst case scenario on the interest rate, figure out the payment for your client at that, and that's what you have to qualify them at, worst case scenario. So if you guys have questions about this and we want to work on it a little more, we'll figure out how we can do it. But you really have to know the negative adjustable, this type of loan, as much as you can possibly know it. Now on the ones that are 3, 5, 7, or 10, they're not fixed rate loans. You cannot advertise them as fixed rate loans, but they do not change for the first, whatever the number is in front of it. So it says 3-1 or 5-1 or 7-1 or 10-1, okay? For the first part of that loan, it's going to stay the same. The payment's not going to change, and it's not going to go negative. So those loans are really good for people who don't think they're going to be in their home longer than 5 or 7 years. Okay? So that's the adjustable. If anybody else, because I had a lot of texts last night, and I was answering them all, and everybody wanted to go over the adjustable again. So we'll stop there. If you guys have any questions more regarding the adjustable, let me know. Okay? So you should be on page 124. No, we went backwards. Hold on. All right. Let me see.